Hi, welcome to another Fix Your Gut live stream. My name is Jason Hooper, and thanks for joining us. I'm here today with Jason Miller from Eat to Perform. Jason Miller's been a steel welder, for the last 20 years. For the last 10 years, he's been building brewery systems in the craft beer sector. He's also been a mod and coach for Eat to Perform. He's been doing CrossFit for 6 years, and at the most recent 2015 Open, he placed in the top 10% worldwide, which is really impressive. Jason, thanks for being on the show.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk about Eat to Perform. It's a nutrition site to help manage your macros to make sure that you're performing well. Say I want to join Eat to Perform and log in, create an account. What should I expect right off the bat?
Well, basically, the way it works is you would purchase the package or whoever it is, and then you would get an email from our staff sending you to a link where you can actually put in a lot of your personal details, and then you would actually get in return through an email. You would actually get your total daily energy expenditure, like the starting goal, your macros to hit for targets, and some other information like how to navigate through the forums, things you want to set up, like you want to set up a MyFitnessPal account, you want to set up a training log, so the moderators can actually go back into your profile and actually see how you're doing, and we can interact from that point. But basically, the Eat to Perform is premised upon the basis that a lot of people actually aren't eating to their level of activity, right? Most people are always under eating. Some people are overeating, for sure, of course, but for the majority of people, we actually find that under eating is the actual main problem. So we want to uninstill the fact that a lot of people think they want to eat less and do more, right? It doesn't actually work, science-wise. Basically, when you eat more, you actually end up doing more, and when you eat less, you actually end up doing less, right? So what we want to do is we want to try and bring your food up to where you are as an individual. Did you want to say?
Yeah, that it's a pretty, I guess, core belief in around that. Okay, diet and exercise, and the diet portion tends to be calorie restrictive, especially for weight loss. But a lot of people find that just doesn't work, and so you get people who just say, like, I'm trying my best, and you see them on the treadmill or whatever, you see them running outside, and they just tank their metabolism, right? Where did this idea come from? I mean, like, why do people think that this is the thing to be doing, and how do we break people out of this habit?
Well, yeah, that's one of the other aspects of the program is that what we find is the one thing that you cannot change is adaptation. No matter what it is that you do, your body will constantly try to adapt to that. So if you eat less food, you will see a physiological response. You can lose weight, you can go in the proper direction. But if you drop your food, eventually your metabolism is actually going to try and shift towards that always. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So if you stay at a certain point, all of a sudden it's going to try and line up with that. You're going to try and bring the levels up to the same level. So what that could mean is you stop having good performance in the gym. You start being tired. You may be able to do your workouts, but afterwards you find that you actually kind of just lay around a lot more. Like, oh, well, I want to go to the store. Well, maybe I'll do that later. It starts to manifest itself in a lot of different ways, and that's your metabolism actually lowering itself down to this lowered caloric range. And it works in the opposite way as well. If you start to titrate your calories up, you'll actually find, of course, you're going to have more energy. You'll find you're moving a lot more. You can actually have a lot of non-exercise attributed thermogenesis flow, like walking more. You're just going to be like, hey, I feel like going for a walk. It just kind of builds up in that way. And so how are you talking about how we want to get out of that is basically what we do is we reverse diet, right? which is kind of strange because everyone's always about diet, 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 and every other place out there ends up being about somehow eating less. Even I even find even with the bulletproof diet, the problem with that is they say, okay, well, don't count calories. Eat whatever you want. You can eat these kind of foods, and you don't have to pay attention to this stuff anymore. And the idea is for people to actually eat a normal amount of food. But what happens is people just always fall back into the less, right? They just keep eating less and less. They say, well, the habit of this, oh, I want a little bit more, so they cut their foods, and they just keep cutting and cutting and cutting. So the reverse dieting idea is what we do is we slowly raise your metabolism up by increasing your calories. So like I say, when you get that email, and you get your macros and the whole thing, you don't want to just jump right to that, especially if you come from like eating 1,400 calories, and we tell you, hey, look, with what you're doing and who you are as an individual, you should be around 3,000, right? You're basically right now you're eating half of probably what you could be, right? If you jump straight to that, your metabolism does take time to catch up to that. You will gain fat if you do that. Right? If you go from 1,400 calories to go right to 3,000 the next day, you're gonna have problems, right? So that's part of the coaching that we do. We guide people through and we say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna increase your calories by like 100 a week, just slow amounts, and keep on top of it. And you actually notice they come back, oh, I got a 10-pound PR. I've got all this energy. Everything is so great, And some people get excited, right? They want to get right to the end, and that's where we say we got to ring them back in, because what ends up happening is they get excited, they hit a couple of PRs, they got all this extra energy, they're starting to feel good about themselves, and obviously everyone likes eating too, right? So I mean, you're gonna start eating more. You'll be like, hey, this is awesome, and they'll go right to the tilt, and then we got to kind of rein them back, right? But the key there is to slowly increase it so your metabolism can catch up, because your metabolism is it doesn't exactly match what you're doing. It does lag behind, which is why, when you lower calories initially, people go on a diet, they do have some kind of a success, right? Because you're lowering your calories, right? You're eating less food, right? And you're keeping your activity the same. But, as it starts to catch up, that's when you start to have problems. And people don't know that you don't do this stuff all the time. You don't diet all the time. It's one of the worst things you can do, because where do you go? You drop your food down to 1,400, and then few months goes by, and all of a sudden nothing's happening anymore. I'm not losing any more weight. What are you gonna do? 1,200, 1,000, 800? Where do you go? You're gonna die, right? You know what I mean? It's like you have to stop, but then people get stuck, and they would never ever think, maybe I should eat more, just to bring your metabolism back up, right? So like I say, we take people through, through waves of pushing that upper limit, taking people to the maximum that their metabolism can handle, because you can take someone up to that 3,000, have them hang out there for a while, and then we do short cycles of reduction, for the fat loss. But that's the cool thing, is that if you actually take the time to build yourself up, you actually, say you're just throwing some numbers out there, say you're at 3,000 or whatever, and then we take you down to 2,500 for a short period of time. Well, you're dieting at 1,000 calories more than when you were eating 1,500. So you're losing weight at way more food than you ever thought possible. It's because you push that upper limit. Your metabolism's humming. You're sitting there at night, and you're eating the food, everything's humming. You actually can start sweating from the food. Just like like things are really happening. But it's just you see these people down at the bottom, and it's sad because they're cold all the time. I mean, I've seen some people even at my work. We have a heat registering thing for our machines to test for leaks and stuff like this. It's a thermal imaging machine, and this poor girl at work, I shined it on her, and her hands were blue. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is, I mean, and you say, oh, I just chalk it up to poor metabolism. No, just because you didn't eat all day. I saw you having picnic on a couple of nuts, and for lunch you had a bloody salad that was in a container. It looked like you got it from the cat food store. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just, that's one of the issues with that. Yeah. So.
So a lot of times you get people who they sign up and they go a little bit too overboard with it. Do you find people report honestly, or do you ever like catch people? Because I know you track and you know, I've been following your stuff for probably the better portion of 3 years now. And I know you do a lot of spreadsheets. You've been doing a lot of this stuff even before each perform was around. Can you, when you run the numbers through the spreadsheets, can you like bust them on it and be like, hey, this doesn't seem right?
Well, I think that's at least a good point. Is that's part of the. We can only go so far as people's buy-in, and I think that's part of the issue is that. I mean, it sucks that. I mean, of course, you'd love to be able to just throw that stuff out there for free, but I've even noticed with myself. You know, on the Bulletproof forum, I get PMs from people saying, "Oh, please, can you help me with my macros? You know, I really like the stuff you do. You know, can you give me a hand? I want to try and get bigger in the gym, whatever it is." And I'll be like, "Okay, fine. Hey, no problem. You know, I like helping people." So I'll spend 2 hours out of my day to try and set them up, and I put out this whole plan together, and I get quite detailed and breaking through the whole thing like this. And the response is, "Okay, great, thanks." And then I'd either not hear from them again, or 2 days later I'll see them, back in some other forum saying, "Oh yeah, well, there's just right like as if for no reason, right?" But that paywall is actually part of the accountability because people, I find, and when people pay for something, they're much more likely to adhere to it. So that's
Absolutely.
one. It's a very small part. But the other thing is that, like I say, when you set up your account, you actually have in your profile, you have to start a MyFitnessPal, and you have to set it to public, and you put the link to that in your signature on the form. And same when you start a training log, and you put that link in your signature on the form. All of your information, you put your height, your weight, the macros that we gave you, everything about yourself. So at any point in time, if someone has an issue, any one of us can just click on the links and we can go through their food. You could say, well, is somebody faking it, right? But can you imagine the amount of time it would take to fake your MyFitnessPal every day? All of the food items for all of your meals. I mean, like if people are eating like 6 meals a day, can you imagine what it would take? And like sure you can copy meals and all this kind of stuff, but the likelihood is so unrealistic. I mean, and plus nobody's there to try and get away with something. Everyone's trying to improve themselves. They kind of slip up. I mean, a lot of what I do on the forum is I do a lot of the MyFitnessPal requests. Like there's actually a section on the forum where you can actually say, "Help me. Could you please look at my MyFitnessPal? I want to see if I'm doing this right." So I'll go and I'll look at their link, and I go through every single day. From that day, I'll go back, a month or two, looking at every single day what they ate, if they hit their macros. And as much as people think that they're doing what they think they are. They're saying, I think I'm hitting my macros. I'm doing really well. Okay, let's see about that. So I'll go and I'll look at their MyFitnessPal, and lo and behold, those big misses. People have been missing their protein, right? Because it's just so filling. A lot of people, especially the women, have a really hard time getting enough protein. They miss on that. They may fluctuate up or down on their fast, not too big of a deal, and usually low on carbs because we find most people are coming from like a low carb kind of background. They're kind of trying to get out of that, and they just have the mentality that just, there's all kind of negative synonyms with carbohydrates. They're trying to battle with their minds because they have it so convinced in their head that the carbohydrates are bad for them. So I mean, you see a lot of the same thing. I mean, it's funny, with all of the things that I see, you see these trends, and it's just so common, and you can almost just make a blank template. And when someone asks for my MyFitnessPal review, I can almost just copy and just paste it in the answer because you see a lot of the same stuff over again. Very, very rarely do I ever see somebody overshooting what we've asked because everyone's like just dipping their toes in the water, just trying to touch the edges of what they can do, right? But no, I don't. To answer your question, I don't, see people, misreporting or anything like that. It's a really great environment in there because everyone, we're trying to, well, the owner, Paul Nobles, anyway, he's trying to create an environment where it's like one of the few places you can go on the internet that's safe, right? There's no trolls on that forum. I think it's because it's a pay forum. I believe so.
I would
really seems like the thing with that paywall stops all the spam and all the trolls, right? Because I mean, like It's just everyone there, everyone, thousands of people are there for the exact same reason, and everyone's supporting each other. And on top of the forum, there's actually a private Facebook page. Yeah, I was going to get into that. So things that are in there, there's the forum where you get complete support from all the moderators, 24/7 all the time, no extra fees, and that's lifetime, right? There's no marker on that. There's several Facebook pages. There's the science lab off topic, where everyone goes and they post their PRs, they post before and after photos, progress, pictures and all this kind of stuff, talking about meals, saying this is what I ate and these are what the macros were, so trying to help people out, give people ideas for food. But it actually was intended to just be for kind of bullshitting, right? But it actually did turn out. People seem to like to talk about what they're doing and talk about their workouts and all that kind of stuff. So it does end up going that direction, which is great. And it's a really great environment. There's a couple other Facebook group pages that are a little bit more private. There's a couple private coaching things where people who need more help, who actually they're still having a hard time with all the support in the forum. There's like a monthly fee, and they go into a separate group, and it's like by some of the top tier coaches that we have in the entire team, like the real upper echelon of coaches. They help them one-on-one with phone calls, webcam calls. Just it's a much more personal level. Let's see. Yeah, and also I did want to actually get into another couple things. A lot of people think we've been finding that a lot of people think that Eat to Perform is only about eating all of the food, right? Eating Rice Krispie treats and all this kind of stuff, and it's not about the dieting whatsoever. That's kind of a misnomer. We do reverse diet people out. We try and bring people up as high as they can, but some people are starting to think that there is never a dieting portion. There definitely is a section of time, where we do reduce the food to, really target that fat loss. And but it's a very short period of time. It's only like 10 weeks, because you don't want to be in the stuff. It's miserable, Like once you get used to eating and you end up having all these PRs and having all this excellent performance, as soon as you go to that portion of time where you're kind of restricting food a little bit, it sucks, and people realize it after. They're just like, we actually had a lot of people, they start these cuts, and halfway through, they're like, you know what? I like gains better, and they just stop. They're like, I've had it. It goes, I actually like this growth part. I'm doing stuff that's that's insane compared to what it was before, and I actually don't like dieting anymore. We're trying to change minds.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It's probably really hard to do it the opposite way, where it's like, okay, come into this training program and start cutting first. So you're trashing your metabolism, and you're not getting a good win with all the PRs and everything. Your performance is going down, and then when you start eating more, you're going to start gaining more fat instead of lean mass. And so I can definitely see the advantage of starting from a basis where, okay, we're going to put at least as much fuel as you need to be able to do great things. If we put in some more, that's okay, because we'll take it down later.
Oh, definitely. But a lot of people miss too is that we actually we like the people to actually get body fat analysis as well. We figure that's actually a key part, because scale weight is really deceiving,
Yeah.
And it's really bad, because some of our biggest transformations, you see the before and after, and you're just like, oh my god, right? But it's like, we have this one woman, for example, her before weight, she was 139 pounds, and her after weight, she was 140 pounds, and people are just like, that's you kind of gained a pound there. But if you see, it's like an entirely different person. Like, you cannot even recognize this person, because what happens when you actually eat properly, if she got her body, that's where the body fat scans come in handy, because you do it before and you do it after in like a bod pod or a DEXA scan or in body or whatever it is, and you'll find that, like in this case, she gained 6 pounds of muscle and lost 5 pounds of fat, or whatever the math is to make that 1 pound difference. Like, there was actually a translated, like a major body fat loss and a lean mass increase to cause that. So you end up, these people that are at the same weight, but they look like completely different human beings. And it just goes to show that the scale just means nothing, you know. And one of the biggest issues that we've actually seen is that, well, I know Paul likes to actually have this as body fat test is kind of a bad term in itself, because it's always about, you know, body fat. Let's look at the fat. Let's look at this. Right? What we have actually found is like, well, he actually has one of these machines, an in-body machine. He takes it to different gyms and all these locations and actually provides body fat analysis for people. And he's looked at tens of thousands of body fat analysis. And what's arisen out of that is that we find that most people don't have a body fat problem. They have a muscle mass problem. These tests should actually be called muscle mass tests, because most people are so under muscled that their metabolism is just, that's part of the whole metabolism, because your lean muscle mass can be a primary driver of your metabolism. You know, so if you have somebody who's, I don't know, say if there's a guy that's, you know, 5'8" and he's 170 pounds at 30% body fat, you know, he's going to be in the low hundreds for lean tissue, right? I mean, that's really low. So, you know, if you bring up that muscle mass, that's what's going to really, you know, you're going to find that you just, you know, your body fat drops once you start, you know, bringing that up. Like, men should be to, you know, we find that it's hard to give numbers because everyone's different heights and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, really got to try and bring that muscle mass up. With women, definitely, we see a lot of women that are under 100 pounds of lean mass, and we really want to try and push that over 100. You know, we really try to get the women over 100 pounds of lean tissue, and men, well, that's just, you know, there's a much different upper end from that. It gets to be like a, you know, between 170 to upwards for lean tissue. You know.
So and, what about the hard gainers? Is that a real thing, or is it just a lack of nutrition?
Hard gainers, yeah. That's a lot of times, you know, it really sucks, but it just comes down to food again. You know, there's some people, like, their metabolisms are so high, they just rev at such a rate that, you know, they'll just eat, and they'll get there. You can have them, and you're like, okay, well, let's try 3,000. They're like, nothing. You know, they might go up like 2 pounds and they'll go back down because their metabolism's catching up. It's already even catching up with that. So then you bring it up to 4,000. Okay, we went up a couple more pounds. Okay, well, you try 5,000, and they just start sweating. It's just they're just sitting there, just sweating their brains out. You know, it does suck, but a lot of those people are already naturally lean anyway. But you can see some of these people have major strength increases. So sometimes it's not even about, you know, muscle mass for some of these people that are like that. You know, it's a very small group of people, but some of the poundages they can move are just immense. So it doesn't seem to really limit them in that sense. You know, because you can still just, you can move weights that the big guys can move, you know, but you don't have the same muscle mass, right? But I really don't think for a lot of people who say that they're hard gainers, they haven't really tried, you know, really the upper limits of what they can handle food-wise. Yeah. It's definitely worth a shot, but less isn't going to work.
Right, let's talk about the coaching platform a little bit and sort of the philosophy, because I think that everybody could benefit from a coach, and I think that everybody could benefit from being accountable. And so you talked about before about the financial accountability, so you pay money into it, so you're more likely to actually do it. And you know, I definitely see that happening. And so and then people who their math skills aren't very good, and, you know, they don't have time to mess with it, and just having somebody just do it for them so they can focus on the training portion of it, and you guys sort of focus on the nutrition side of it. Talk to me about, as a coach, you start working with a client, and kind of what do you do with them, and what's the platform?
Well, I'd say in most cases, people come in and they already have, you know, something that they're doing already. We don't really have a lot of people who, you know, come in and they say, well, I don't train, and, you know, I want to train, I want to do the whole thing, right? Most people have, you know, something in mind what they're already doing. What we usually do is we take a look at it, and we just determine, first of all, if, you know, possibly they're doing too much, right? Some people, they got caught into the do more aspect of it, and they're just grinding themselves into the ground. They've got no sleep. You know, they've got such a massive stress environment that, of course, they can't. It's really difficult to lose body fat in these environments as well. You know, so we'll take a look at that, look at their lifestyle and the whole thing. Sometimes we may just say, okay, well, let's maybe cut some out from here, maybe we'll take a couple of days away of your training out just to see what happens, or we'll mix it in. Like some people who say CrossFit, for example, they could be CrossFitting 6 days a week, but then you find out that you can really only get 5 or so hours a week, and they got a couple of kids, and they're working long hours, and they're stressed to the max, and they're not having a lot of success. We're like, okay, well, the CrossFit's extremely stressful workout, right? It's probably one of the most stressful ones that there is. So let's try taking it down to 3, and maybe just adding in some bodybuilding workouts or something like that, or maybe just doing like 3 days a week of CrossFit, 1 or 2 days of bodybuilding style workout, and 1 day of just going for a walk or going for a hike. Or maybe even just say, okay, well, let's wipe this slate clean. Let's just see. Let's take all of your training out for a couple of weeks. Let's bring your stress levels down. Just do some walking. Let's try and get some of your just walking activity up, bring those stress levels down, and we just bring things back in just to test the waters to see. And you can see we've actually seen a couple of instances where this was really helpful. There's one woman that they went through coach in there. We kind of a tiered reporting system that kind of leads to the top. Paul's at the top. He only gets his bell rung if there's a real problem kind of thing, right? But everyone was having a problem, and they went right to him, and he's just like, "Don't get her, stop working out." And it was just like, what? She tried it, and it was great. Like we have instances like that. Some people, I don't know, very rarely, we don't really want to say people aren't doing enough, because, like I say with Eat to Perform, you end up eating that kind of matches what you're doing. We don't really want to say we don't want to do the earn your calories kind of thing. We think everybody should be walking around doing more, just in a general sense. But as for working out, it depends on their goals. I mean, if you have someone who's just like, I want to build as much muscle as possible, but they're, say they're, lifting weights 2 days a week, and it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll bring that up a little bit, kind of thing, right? It's situationally dependent, but we do definitely help people and have suggestions, and like I say, and everybody else on the forum too. It's not only the moderators that can actually help people. Like everyone on the forum can interact with everybody. So you have big community support. Everyone's like, hey, I do that too. Why don't you try this, or come over work with me, or we'll share workouts or whatever, and you bounce ideas off, and it seems to work out that well. But yeah, is there any other?
Yeah, that's cool. I think that premium community, I think, is a really cool thing. Sometimes maybe if we just maybe on the Bulletproof forums, if we charge somebody like $1 just to join, we'd probably end up with a lot less knuckleheads there. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to run through my bullet list here, see if I'm missing anything here. So another aspect is the metabolic flexibility. This is for a lot of the people that are worried about the carbs kind of stuff. What we deal in metabolic flexibility. So when you aren't training, you are lower in carbs, higher in fat. Your protein usually remains constant. Around your workout is when you're going to have mostly carbs and less fat. Part of the issue is a lot of people say, well, carbs can be really bad, but in most of those instances, it's because people are really high carb all of the time and really low fat all of the time, and they're not doing enough exercise to actually match the amount of carbs that they're eating all the time. So you have constantly elevated insulin levels, which of course, is not good, and it also goes in the opposite way as well, unfortunately, is where if you don't have any carbs and you have all of your fat and protein all the time, but you work out all the time, you can actually create some major problems with not necessarily insulin resistance, but it's kind of a carbohydrate intolerance. I want to say that because I don't want to go so far as to say insulin resistance. It's a highly contested debate saying low carb can cause insulin resistance. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that we see in a huge amount of people, and I even experienced it myself, is that people come and they come from low carb environments, and even just throw a little bit of carbs at them, and they start to they puff up, and they just retain all of this water, and they're just like, what the hell, I'm just getting fat. But they're only eating like 100 carbs or 120 carbs. Like it's really insane, and you really have to kind of get them back into their body using glycogen, replacing the glycogen, getting back in, and getting that muscle sensitivity back into play, and then eventually, like once it catches on, like with me, I mean, like 3 days last week, I had 555 carbs, which is most people think is absolutely insane.
That's a
But
lot of carbs.
yeah, it is. It is.
It's a lot of
It's a
chewing.
ton of carbs. Yeah, exactly. But I could not do that when I started. When I first started the program, I was trying 175, and I was just none of my clothes fit. It was just it was insane, and my weight actually did go up. What I had to do was we had to kind of back off a bit, and then go back up even more slowly, and then I was able to go back up to where I was, and then completely blow that out of the water. I got up to my TDD was supposed to be at 325, and I said, okay, let's try 350. Okay, well, nothing happened. Okay, 375 is okay. I'm just lifting more weights. I'm building more muscle. I feel a lot more muscular. My jeans don't fit on my legs, but they're loose in the waist. And it's just like, okay, it takes a while for you to catch back up, right? But so anyway, with the metabolic flexibility, you actually through your day, you do experience periods of lower carbohydrate. You do experience periods with higher carbohydrate. On your rest days, that's you're going to be lower in calories overall. Everything kind of comes. Well, your fat and protein stay the same, but your carbs kind of drop a bit. And being a little bit less fed on those 2 days also kind of helps spur insulin sensitivity a bit, so that when you do go back into the gym and have that, your body's more thirsty for this kind of stuff. So nobody needs to worry about, oh, this is the diabetes diet or some kind of stupid thing like that, because it's just not true.
How
And
many
also,
how many high-level athletes do you know that have type 2 diabetes? Can you think of one?
true. I can't think of
I just can't think of anybody who's working that hard that isn't insulin sensitive after their workouts.
it. Oh,
And that's one of the things that's kind of gone out of fashion in the, I guess, nutrition world, is like, don't exercise so much, and exercise one day a week for 15 minutes or something. And I think being satiate, just sitting around all the time is not going to help for sure with
no.
anything.
Oh, no, definitely not. But I mean, you've seen uh, actually one of Mike T. Nelson, which is our sports science doctor that we have to perform. He actually performs a lot of the research articles that you see. When you actually research PubMed, he's done some of those articles in there. His name is on some of them. He's one of the people that brought forward that after your training, you lift weights, your insulin sensitivity is increased for 6 hours after your training. So it's like that just shows you, instead of having all this kind of ideas and dogma and all this kind of stuff, it's like, okay, we're showing that after you have this activity, your muscles are thirsty for carbohydrate for a period of 6 hours after your training. There's no story behind that. It just happens, right? So we're just taking advantage of that, right? But so when you're not having that heightened insulin sensitivity, you should be pounding the carbs. No, and no one said you should. You know, and
Yeah, for sure.
mm,
Hey, talk to me
uh,
about, or do you have any more bullet points left on that?
yes,
Or?
yes, yes. So I just
Okay.
want to nail through a couple more of my notes. I kind of go on a little bit. Um, Another thing is we don't have food lists. There's no good food, bad food. There's no hating on anybody for any type of diet. It's basically like, these are your macros. If you want to eat paleo, perfectly fine. You want to eat bulletproof, that's perfectly fine. You want to be a vegan, any one of the number of ways you want to eat, that's completely your thing. We don't push anybody away for any type of ideas they have for how they want to eat. We're there to support them. And because we think that there's a lot of negativity around a lot of this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of inner banterings here and there between some people. They're just like, oh, I don't know how you can eat Rice Krispie treats after a workout. That's not paleo and the whole thing. It's a little bit, but there's no actual fights. And just we like to let everybody know that there's no, like, one of the most destructive things that you can possibly do is have one of these Whole30 kind of things. I
Yeah.
mean, the Whole30 thing, it just destroys people. It's just like, okay, this is so restrictive, and there's so a lot of people, they find you just by default end up being low carb by that. don't want any of
Yeah.
that kind of
I
stuff.
mean, there's no way you could eat 550 grams of carbohydrates just by eating sweet potatoes. I mean, how many sweet potatoes would that be?
You would hate life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would just hate life, and that's part of the thing. Is like it gets to the point where there's a little bit of nuance to it. I mean, definitely you can do it if you are if you have extreme intestinal fortitude, go for it. You want to have just rice and you want to have sweet potatoes and you want to do the whole thing. Please do. We're not, and no one is telling you to do anything different than that. For me, what I found with myself is I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to test some of these other things just because I was just eating so much, and I was just kind of like, okay, I got to find a way around this because I mean, you're really pushing the upper limits is like every single time you're going to have a meal and you're already at 6 meals that you have a mild gag reflex at just the mere thought of food. You have to do something about that at some point. So I mean that's why you start looking at some other alternatives. You start getting into the highly branched cyclic dextrin or Vitargo is really great.
Yeah,
Just
I've been trying that. I've been trying the highly branched cyclic dextrin. The reason why I didn't try it before is because I read some stuff that said that like the gastric emptying improves so much, and I thought that meant diarrhea. But I've had
oh
zero stomach problems with it.
no
I feel
yeah no
really,
I haven't
I
either.
feel really good on that stuff.
Yeah, I bought a huge tub of Vitargo and I went through that, and we had some kind of strange thing happen in Canada where it was really hard to get for a period of time. So I ended up getting the highly branched cyclodextrin instead, and I noticed no difference. It's identical to me. It's not any sweeter. It doesn't have any. I don't. There's no bloating. It's really quite fantastic actually, and it's just excellent
You use that
all around. I use
pre-workout?
it. I use it post.
Oh, post.
Yeah, some people use it pre. I mean, I use it like because after my workout. Well, like I say this last week, I've really been kind of pushing it. Um, yeah, because I mean, I'll have 200 to 300 carbohydrates post workout before I go to bed. So that like I really hit that. Post workout, I'll have like 60 grams of carbs from that, and some gummy bears. but uh, but they're Haribo gummy bears, and they're actually made with dextrose.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't want to hear anyone complain about that. They're just in the shape of teddy bears. It doesn't make them evil, right? So you know, and I do have Rice Krispies treats. I'll have that. And I'll just nail it down. But there's a specific window when I have these things, and it is post workout. It's not like earlier in the day. I'm just throwing back candies or anything like that. It's specifically for a reason at a specific time. And it's what I choose to do. And I notice that I haven't had an issue. If anything, I do these things and I'm losing body fat. So it's not like oh, I had this sugar, or I had this kind of thing, and all of a sudden you don't get fat from sugar if you do it at the right time. Um, yeah, so you were talking about that. So yeah, yeah, Vitargo definitely is good. White rice, yeah, of course. Actually, what I have been doing actually recently is I've been playing around with cream of rice. I take my Vitamix blender and I grind. I put the grain grinder on there and I grind the white rice to a fine, fine, fine powder, and then bring water to a boil. And as soon as it comes to a boil, you throw the powder in, and in 1 minute you have your food. And it's actually I find it's a lot easier to eat than rice because you cook rice and you can end up with this massive plate of rice, and you're just like, how am I going to eat this? But you end up with this bowl of kind of porridge, kind of cream of wheaty kind of stuff, and you can add whatever you want into it.
I'm gonna try that.
Cinnamon's really good. Yeah, yeah, it's really great. Basically, what I found is what was it? 4-to-1 for water to the powder. So if you quarter cup of the powder, you'd want a cup of water. It's a little bit more than when you're cooking regular rice. If you don't, it's a little bit grainy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Add
and
some cinnamon, honey, that kind of stuff.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have this natural brown sugar, like brown sugar and cinnamon.
Oh, okay.
That's good. I actually got one time I was got kind of tired of doing that, and I actually put in salsa. It was kind of a weird thing, but it
That
was
sounds good.
yeah, it was actually pretty good.
Well, hey, I'm
So
from Texas, so I love the salsa, man. I gotta try
yeah,
that
there you
soon.
go. Yeah, yeah. So
I'm gonna eat that for
and
breakfast.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I think that is about that.
All right, talk to me about the Fitbit. I haven't played around with the Fitbit too much, and so how do you guys use the Fitbit at Eat to Perform?
Mm. Yes, I got one here.
Cool.
So basically, with the Fitbit, what it does, just give a quick little overview. I recommend you get the HR. Don't get just the regular. I get Fitbit One, I think it's called. I can't remember. There's one that doesn't have the heart rate tracker. Get the one with the heart rate tracker. Big difference. Otherwise, it's just counting your steps. And what it does is it tracks your. It's actually cool. It's a watch, so it tells you the time. Amazing that. And your steps, it tells you your heart rate and the distance that you've moved and how many calories you burned in a day. Oh, here we have a key here. And how many flights of stairs you've climbed, and you can set an alarm. So, how can we use this? Let me see here. What we can do is you can actually wear this thing, and it will tell you roughly how many calories you've used. And so what can you do with that? Well, we have this thing, it's called hashtag. It's actually a hashtag, you might be able to look it up. It's the hashtag Eat Your Fitbit. And the goal, yeah, it doesn't taste that good, but yeah. But the goal is to eat the number on your Fitbit. And it is about as easy as that. You want to follow, like if you're in the form, you follow the kind of the guidelines we have. What you would do in that scenario is you would leave your protein and fat the same, and you would just change your carbohydrates to match that daily expenditure. So on days when you're doing less, you're naturally going to eat less, and days you're eating more, you're going to end up eating more. Um, we want to try it out in part way just to see if uh, the thing was accurate or not. For one thing, is because you say, okay, well, if you start doing this thing, if us experienced people who are experienced at doing this and experienced with our food and all that kind of stuff, if we start eating this and things start to go sideways, then you can say, okay, well, maybe this thing's not as accurate as people think it is, or if we start eating the calories that it tells it to, if we start, shedding, going on a cut, we're just like, okay, well, this is not sustainable. We also have to say, don't do this, right?
So
But
how does it know? Does it calculate by heart rate? Because I mean, if you're doing cleans or whatever, that's not like jogging.
this is
So
one of the issues with it is some people that I think they miss the grand picture of the entire thing, and you do hear a lot about this. A lot of people say that with the Fitbits, the heart rate tracking is not that accurate. If they put a Garmin on and they test that side by side with the Fitbit, you will get different numbers. The Fitbit does tend to read a little low, unless you're running. It seems to be fairly accurate when you're running.
okay,
And if you start to really profusely sweat, some of the reading can actually be a little bit off on the heart rate. Sometimes it will actually stop reading, like you'll get little dashes on there because there's too much sweat under there. There's a couple of issues
okay.
there.
So kind of like
And
the
if you're
artifacts from the M Wave.
yes, and also people say, okay, well, if I'm doing bicep curls or cleans or yeah, exactly, like CrossFit kind of stuff. Some people say, oh, it doesn't track the CrossFit as much as it does with the running, but I CrossFit and I'm doing it, and it seems to work really well. I will agree with the fact that it doesn't seem that the heart rate is exactly on the money, but the grand picture of the entire thing is people are too focused on the fact that they think that their workout is where they're burning all of their calories. This is completely not true.
Right.
Almost all of the calories you burn in a day is just being alive, right? I mean, I could just lay on the floor and not move all day and just breathe, and I would burn 1,500 calories just keeping the lights on, right? So, and the rest of that is just you're walking around, walking here, walking there, having all that kind of stuff, which is called your NEAT. When you start adding all that up, your workouts is really only going to be maximum 300 to 500 calories out of your day. So if it's off by 100 calories or so, not as big of a deal because it was right for the other 2,500, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to have a much huger impact. If you don't walk around, if you lay on the couch all day, you're going to have a dramatically lower number. So I think people kind of lose that. They're just like which is good. People want accuracy. They really go after the data. They want the extreme tracking. You want it to be highly accurate, but you lose the grand picture. And I've been doing it for probably about 4 to 5 weeks now, and you can actually set it in your settings. You can actually set it so that, okay, sorry, another bit I got to add in there. It links up to MyFitnessPal, which also, again, we use, right? Everyone has a MyFitnessPal account. So you can actually link your MyFitnessPal to your Fitbit, and they talk to each other. So when you go into your Fitbit, it will say, okay, these are how many calories you've burnt. This is how much food you've eaten. This is what we think that you're going to burn by the end of the day. This is how much food you have left. It's fantastic, right? So you can actually, as the day progresses, it'll actually change that end goal, because obviously, if it's 7 o'clock, you don't know where it's going to end up. So it does kind of give a rough estimation of where you're going to end up, which comes in handy. And yeah, so what I usually found that I've been doing is I eat my regular meals all the way up until dinner, and then, which is my post-workout, and I will open up the Fitbit and I'll just say, okay, where do I stand? What do I have left to eat tonight? And that's where I, cramming everything up to meet that thing. And you can actually set your goal for calories at surpassing your activity, or you can have it at under your activity. You can set it to like a 250 or 500 calorie deficit, or matching, and it gives you, yellow, red, and green bars if you're successful. Like it'll have a gray bar, which is your activity, and then there'll be this other bar that's colored that rises up, and if you end up right there at the end of the day, it'll be green. If it's a lot lower, it'll be yellow. If it's past, it'll be red. And so the goal is to get all greens. It's kind of fun. And the other weird thing about the Fitbit is when I first got it, it was kind of a mental experiment on my own. I wanted to see what the psychological impact is of having a Fitbit. And without a doubt, as soon as I put it on, I was already thinking, I got to do something. I got to walk somewhere. I got to, like, you want to start getting steps. You want to start getting steps. But and some people, yeah, sure, it may become a unhealthy thing where they're just like, they set their goal at 15,000, and they'll just walk circles around their house all night just trying to make sure they get to their goal. So I mean, but it definitely. And I thought it was a joke. I'm just like, maybe it's placebo. So I was fully aware. And I was just like, as soon as I put that thing on, it's just like, okay, I gotta take the dog for a walk or something like this, just add that up. And but it does kind of wear off now. It's like, I do find where it's like where I normally would drive somewhere, maybe I will walk, or it kind of gets you to make better decisions. And I think everybody probably could walk a little bit more. I think that's beneficial to anybody. But there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. And,
that's pretty cool. I'm going to check it out after this. It's just, for some reason, when it first came on the market, I guess the HR version probably didn't come out. I looked at it and I was like, whatever. It's like a step counter. But I guess the HR has a lot more functionality to it. I think that's kind of cool. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yes, actually, on top of that, there's a sleep tracker.
Oh,
it
cool.
monitors your sleep. I don't know. I know you guys have this. What is that? The other one you had?
The Zeo. The Zeo's dead, man.
Okay.
There's a couple people that can still get theirs to work. Mine's dead. I bought one. It worked great for about, I don't know, less than a year, and then the company went bankrupt.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but so this one, it tells you your sleep quality and how long you slept. I don't know how it knows when you actually went to sleep. I'm not even gonna try and figure that one out, but it's pretty cool. Like all I know is I go to bed, and like when I check in the morning, it knows. It must obviously if you're staying still and not moving, obviously it must be obviously what it is. But no, you get up and it will actually tell you how many times you were restless, and it will tell you how many times you're awake, and it gives you like a readout, like a line graph, and it tells you, these are the times that you woke up, these are the times that you were restless, and it gives you like a quality score percentage kind of thing, and it tells you, subtracts all that and says, okay, you actually slept for this. As for the accuracy, I think it's good enough, because some nights it's good and some nights it's not, and I think that's probably the thing that people need to pay attention to over and above whether or not it's extremely accurate. I think if you're waking up all throughout the night, I think that's probably something you want to deal with, whether or not how many of those lines were actually supposed to be there and which ones were.
I gotcha. Okay, so I mean, just from a pragmatic point of view, it's given you enough information to where you can make better decisions, and don't sweat the small stuff so much. Just use it as a tool and try to improve from it. I think that's pretty cool. All right, gonna hit some rapid fire questions to close out the interview. So let's talk about short run aggregate curves, or SRAs, and training frequency.
Okay. Okay, SRA curve. So you're here. You created a stimulus. You're going to have a response and recover from the stimulus. You're going to have a dip, which is your recovery, and then you're going to come back up, and you're going to get higher from that point, which is your adaptation. So that's this very simplistic way of talking about it. How we can take advantage of it is simple things. If you are training and you create a stimulus like a workout in some way, and the next day, say you're not even sore, or you don't have, you don't feel like you've worked out or whatever like this, you can actually work out sooner. There's a lot of people who actually think, okay, well, you got to work out this body part once a week, right? That's the way you're supposed to do it. So you can train out, one body part per day, one body part per day. You only train that once every week, and that's the way, because you got to give your body a week to recover. It's actually not really that true. It depends on how long you've been in the game and how much of a stimulus you're creating, right? So if you train legs on Monday and Tuesday you're not sore, this means a couple things. It means you can either say, okay, well, next time I work out legs, I'm going to increase the volume. I'm going to make it harder because nothing happened, and you're supposed to be creating a strong stimulus. That's the whole object of doing it. Or you can actually train again on Wednesday, say Monday, right? So Wednesday, you can actually go train legs again on Wednesday. Oh my God, no, you're not supposed to do that. Nonsense. You didn't create enough of a stimulus, so your adaptation happened instantaneously. So you had the stimulus, you had the recovery, and then you had the adaptation instantly, and you're ready to go again right away. So in some cases, some of these people can actually train. You can train like 3 days a week, if you need to, especially if you're an amateur. The reason why you see in these bodybuilding magazines, and you see the top people like Ronnie Coleman, they're training, legs, 1 day a week, and all this kind of stuff, and they're only training legs on that day. Like maybe they might even be training just quads, right? Not even just that one body part. Is because he's creating such a massive stimulus. That's an incredible amount of stimulus. The recovery takes a really long time to recover from. I mean, there's just no way around it. I mean, if you're getting under a 600-700 pound bar, banging out squats, for multiple sets, and then you're going to the leg press machine and all this kind of stuff, that would kill most people, right? So there's no way. And this guy's quads are bigger than your waist. So let's not even play around here.
Yeah, that guy's huge.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even the same people, right? So I mean, if you have somebody who's just starting out, they're 150 pounds, 160, 70, and they're just starting working out, there's almost no way that you're not going to respond automatically to what you're training to. You can actually train a lot more with a lot more frequency. Take advantage of that in the beginning, especially when you're an amateur, because you respond a lot more quicker. You're not actually able to recruit enough fibers to cause a massive stimulus that would actually take an extended amount of time to recover from. There are also other body parts that actually recover a lot quicker, like biceps and like rear delts seem to recover, like in forms, can recover pretty quickly. A lot of people, even some of the there's some people that are well over 200 pounds that train biceps 2-3 times a week. They use it almost like as an accessory at the end of a lot of their workouts, just because they just don't. It's really hard to get sore from it, and you're not going to sit there and do 20-30 sets of it all the time, because you have other stuff you got to kind of focus on. But definitely there's certain body parts where you can use this to your advantage. I know a lot of people, like I know you were talking earlier about soreness and whatnot. You can actually, if you don't want to train that frequently, some people don't, right? That's perfectly fine. Well, then you have to increase the stimulus. You can't. There's no way around it. I mean, you have to cause a disruption. You have to disrupt your homeostasis to a point where it wants to do something different. So you can actually, say whatever you did, 5 sets of bench on whatever Tuesday. Next day you're not even sore, and you're like, okay, well maybe I'll wait a day, maybe I'm still gonna get sore. Wednesday still nothing. Okay, well, chalk it up as a loss. Next week you go in there, try 8 sets, 10 sets, and just keep titrating it up like that until you actually find your response level. Because I mean, one day you're gonna go in there, you're gonna train, and the next day you're gonna be like, Jesus, I can't breathe, right? So when that happens, you're like, okay, well now that you feel the soreness, don't train that muscle again until it's not sore, right? That's your recovery, right? That's the adaptation that takes place. So that then that could take a few days, and that'll give you a better sense, right? So I mean, I think people need to really take a look at a lot of what their training is. A lot of people just go through the motions. They do what they think's right. They have their set program. They go through it, and they're like, oh, it's great. I've been doing this program for a while. I don't even get sore anymore. This is awesome. No, it's not. You have to keep making it harder. That's what makes you better. You don't get better by doing the same thing. You have to constantly make things harder. Like, it has to hurt.
Well,
right?
you don't even
Not
stay
hurt
the same. You don't even stay the same by doing the same thing. You'll get worse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards.
Exactly.
So we can use the same formula, and you must be good at math because you do a lot of this. You do a lot of these calculations with like WOD programming and nutrition tracking and stuff. But when you think about the SRA, you can look at it from different angles, like from a technical side. So it's like, okay, we're going to use PVC pipe because we're sore, but we still need that technique work, and we're not going to burn ourselves out from technique. All the way to the nervous system side of things, where we might just be fried. Our muscles might feel okay, but our nervous system might be fried, and our HRV might be jacked.
Yes, definitely. But I think in a lot of people, this also comes back to taking into consideration that a lot of people aren't eating enough food or aren't eating properly.
Sure.
I think a lot of that can actually wipe a lot of that off the table. A lot of people just say, oh, I'm overtrained. No, you're not overtrained. You have no idea how hard it is to overtrain. You have a feeding problem, right? You're not eating, I mean, I've seen men, full-grown men, eating the protein levels of one of our small women, right? Yeah. So, I mean, let's get that worked out first, right? And then we can talk about whether or not you're overtraining or not. But when it comes to programming, there's always nuances. I mean, obviously, there's a dose response. I mean, like you can give something to somebody and it could cripple them for a week, and give it to somebody and it's like a warm up. So that just gets used to annoying the person. But for generalized programming, I like to give a variety of weights. Just to make sure that nobody's trying to crush themselves too much. I'll write a bit of a program and it'll just have a lot of varied sets and reps, or actually start over again. If someone were to come to me and say, write me a program, right, I would say to them, okay, well, we're going to start with this, and there would be a certain amount of sets, and I'd be like, okay, let's just see what happens with this, and you actually just start bringing it up. And you have to do deloads and all this kind of stuff. You can't just ramp up endlessly.
Right.
It's not sustainable, right? Your body needs a break. So, I mean, with this whole thing with the SRE curve and taking advantage of that and the extra training and really pushing the envelope, is you have to take a period of time. It's usually, normally it's usually about a week every 4 weeks, where you totally bring back the volume, and you just go in there, just touch the weights, just get used to it, make it so you're hungry, and you get to go back to it. But anyway, so going back to that, you want to ramp that up. You want to say, okay, well, let's try, 3 sets. Next week we'll try 5 sets, and kind of wrap it up like that. For myself, it's a little bit more intuitive. You want to talk about that? I've had a problem all week since Monday. It's Saturday now, and I can't even cough. My abs are so sore. I overdid it. I was doing these GHD sit-ups, and I did too many, and it's not going away. So that's my thing, and I have not touched abs since then because I'm taking advantage of that. The curve, and I'm waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting patiently for my adaptation.
That's going to be hard though, because your core engages on just about any exercise you do.
Yes, and the output was definitely reduced because of that, unfortunately. But not to an extreme degree. I mean, like I say, if things are, if other muscles are used, just auxiliary. It's not that big of a deal, but it does suck though. But the thing is, I learned okay. Well, there's a certain point with me especially with that movement, it's like this much nothing, this much can't bend over, right? There's so everyone has to find that point. But as for training and whatnot, for myself, what I usually do is like on say it's Monday or whatever, I always hit some type of an Olympic lift. And I'll take it to a near max. Some days it'll be a max. I'll work it up. Usually singles it'll be the snatch or the clean, and I'll go through. I'll probably do about 10 sets of that, and then I'll move on to more of a weightlifting style where it'd be like your classic squat, shoulder press, bench press, all those, push press, front squat, all those kind of things. I'll do one of those and it'll be like whatever I'm doing at the time. I'll do like another 5 to 7 sets of 5 reps, 3 reps, or 1 rep, depending what it is during that cycle. But I'll hit that one of those type of movements, and then I'll do some type of a barbell conditioning, where usually I'll do something where it's like a 12-minute workout, where it's like every minute you have to perform a function. So like even minutes would be I don't know, 5 handstand push-ups, and then odd minutes would be I don't know, 7 strict pull-ups or something like that. So at the top of the minute, you're having to do one of these alternating back and forth. It's a little bit less intense. You're getting the work in. It's more volume. You're creating volume. It's doable, and you're able to get through it. And at the end, you still have energy for something else, but you're still creating some type of a response. And then at the end, I'll hit some type of a Metcon, which is the all-out balls to the wall kind of super high intense workout, versus ranges from 5 to 20 minutes. If it's like a 5-minute one, I'll may do a couple of them, come up with something, and then usually after that, it'll just be like maybe some static holds, maybe some handstand holds against the wall, or some L sits or planks or something like that. Really get or maybe do some core or something like that. So it's a pretty long training session. Like for me, usually about 2 hours. But you can't do that when you're just starting. It's not, you just end up in a hospital. You can't.
Yeah.
It takes time to build that kind of volume. But so I mean, like I say, usually if I have a program written out for a day, somebody who's doing it, you would just pick one of those parts. Say, okay, I'm only going to do this section, or I'm only going to do that section, and then once you can kind of adapt and get used to it, you can add another section and you kind of build up that way.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I tried the Body by Science thing for a while, and I kind of gave up on it because I didn't feel like I didn't ever feel like I was sore afterwards. Even when I used like all the equipment and everything, I just didn't really feel like it was intense enough. And they tried to, it looks good on paper and everything, and they're like, okay, well, this is just, it's supposed to be like really maximum output, and then that's gonna deliver the response. But I started to think about it, and if you take that to the extreme, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go out and get in a car accident, and then I'm going to get delayed onset muscle soreness from that. But I'm not going to there's not going to be any hypertrophy or gains from that either, from that amount of damage. So I mean, that adaptation's not going to be there. So I've since switched to I've since switched to a different program to where I'm working out more and stuff, and I'm getting a lot better results. So that's cool though. Real quickly, supplements. We had a question about glutamine specifically from the forums. What do you think about supplements and glutamine?
Okay, well, supplements in general, what we found is a lot of people, they get it really excited, and that's great. There's like, okay, I'm going to work out, and the first thing they say is, okay, I'm going to work out, what supplement should I take? And it's like totally the wrong way to think about it, because it's like, really, it's only going to have like a maximum. Any supplement you take, and we're not talking steroids, of course. Any supplement you're going to take, maximum you're going to get is about 5% return on what you're taking. Everything else is going to come from your diet, and you have your total caloric level, you have your macronutrient division, you have your food quality and type, and you have your timing, and then you have supplements way up there at the top. which has a very small impact. Most people need to address everything below that first. So don't talk about supplements unless you've looked at everything else before that, because it goes in that order. There's no point talking about supplements if you don't have enough food. There's no point talking about supplements if you don't have your macro set right. There's no point talking about supplements if you don't have your timing up. There's no point talking about supplements if you're eating bologna and Twinkies, right? So you have to get those things in first, and then decide, okay, what is my need? Where am I falling short? Where do I need the extra advantage from? I mean, there are a few supplements that are very well backed, by research and studies and all things. Like creatine, obviously, that's the big one. It's one of the highest, research supplements there is. It works 100% across the board. You don't need any of these other weird variations and special, versions and all that kind of stuff. Creatine monohydrate, that's the one. Take it, it works. You can take that. Anyone can take it. You will, experience improvements from that. Don't have to worry about that one. The other one is whey protein. Whey protein is one of the best proteins you can possibly take. It has one of the best bioavailabilities of any other protein there is. It's even above the standard, which is egg whites, right? It's like the top. Things like glutamine, which is what we're talking about. There's nothing that shows that it will improve body composition. Really, there isn't. As for recovery, again, I would say look at your food first. I guarantee you that you'll recover better from proper carbohydrate consumption than you will from glutamine. Yes, I take it. I know that's where he's getting it from. I fall prey to the similar problems as everybody else because I'm a human being. Glutamine is one of the first supplements that I ever took many 15 or so years ago, and I still take it to this day. Why? Because I've taken it for 15 years. That's why. There's almost no other reason. It's just because it's so in my program. It's just what I've always done, and at some point, definitely it may have been making up for some kind of caloric deficit or some kind of a nutrition issue. Right now, if I were to completely take it out, I guarantee you, it would mean nothing. It would mean absolutely nothing to me. But I still take it. I take it before and after my workout because it's dirt cheap, and I've always taken it. So
yeah, it is cheap. Just take it out. Take it out for a week and see what happens.
Yeah, and as you know from your Fix Your Gut, I mean, it's good for you in other ways. So
yeah, that's true.
Why not take it? Why not take it? There's no reason not to take it, but don't think that it's going to give you something that you can't fix with food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, I just wanted to touch on a couple really quickly. Beta alanine and the nitric oxide booster, arginine and beta alanine. Those ones, what they do is they allow you to do more work. So they're not going to make you bigger, faster, stronger, or any of that kind of stuff. They're not going to change your body composition. What they're going to do is they're going to facilitate an environment where you can actually do more work to cause your own stimulus. Right? So that's how it works. If you have a set routine and you do your workout and then you want to add beta alanine to it, you will experience no difference in your results unless you do more during that workout, because now you have that added ability to push that top end. So if you're doing a Tabata push-ups and you're able to go 20, 18, 15, 14, 13, 13, 13, 10, 10, or whatever it is, and you take the beta alanine and you do those same numbers, but it's a lot easier, and you're like, okay, well, that was just an easier workout. That's not the right way to use it. The right way to use it is try and get that 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, because you have the extra ability to process the lactic acid and all thing, and you're able to do more work. So you have to actually do more work. You can't take these supplements and think that you're gonna get jacked, right? It's just not gonna happen. You have to make it happen.
Not even with PEDs is that gonna happen either. You're gonna have
exactly, right? I mean, it's just take a bunch of Tren and sit on the couch and it's just,
you're just gonna be angry. Yeah, you're gonna get back pumps from sitting on the couch. That's gonna
Yeah,
suck. Um,
exactly.
yeah, I like arginine. I think it's a cool supplement.
Yep.
What it does metabolically is it helps you. So you have your VO2 max, and then once that oxygen's spent, you go into your lactic acid cycle. What arginine does is there's actually a nitrogen cycle that kicks on, and it supplements the lack of oxygen. You're still able to perform glycolysis. So you're still able to generate those ATPs without oxygen in the environment. So when you're dead tired, you're able to get it up. It also opens up the capillaries and stuff, gets the blood flowing, and so it increases your VO2 max that way. But I definitely agree, like use that to your
Yeah,
advantage
use
and do
it.
more work. Don't just like take it and be like, oh, that was easy, and then go home. You're actually probably going to get less gains than if you didn't take it in the first place, because the stressor is going to be lower, so the adaptation's not going to have to be as great.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about, and we're kind of running over time here, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about the evolution of bulletproof, the evolution of diet. And so where did we go wrong with carbs? How do we define what low carb was in the first place, and were we all talking about the same thing? And how do we get like a low carb rehab? Because like everybody, like I think everybody started from not low carbs, and so they switched to low carbs and they started feeling good at first, and then all of a sudden they didn't, and then a lot of people crashed, and then they had to add carbs back in and they felt better. So kind of walk us through how this happened.
How did it happen? Well, I don't really know how it happened. It's just more like people were really like cool ideas, I think, and just get carried away with it. There's some people who probably had problems with carbs before. I imagine we're probably eating them all at the wrong times, right? Because we already know that that's definitely something that you can do. So then you start having some of these other issues. You start having like higher blood pressure. You start having higher fasting glucose readings and all this kind of stuff, and you start not feeling that good. Then comes along and says, okay, take it out. So you take it out. Some of these things reverse, but during that time you're also wasting away because you're still doing exercise. If you're working out, we're basing this on whether or not you're working out or not. So you're working out and you're actually working through your system's glycogen that you have, which is but you're feeling good at the same time. Oh, it's a really messed up thing. I can't really say exactly kind of what happened, but it's like when you bring it back in and you do it right. That's why you see a lot of people say on the forum, for example, uh, they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm not doing very good with my workouts," and I will come along, and be the devil's advocate, and I'll say, "Here, throw in some carbs after your workout," and most of the time people feel better, right? Because they're adding them back in at the right time, right? Probably most of the problem is people were adding them in all the time, right? So I think that's where the biggest problem was. It wasn't necessarily that low carb is good or bad or anything. I think it's just when you take something completely away, you're getting rid of taking the carbs in the morning, and you're taking all the bad times that you're taking them, you're taking that away too, right? Which is why you feel good because you're taking away from the times that you probably shouldn't have been eating them, but then you eventually crash. Um, but how we can evolve, I think even in a broader scope, I think there's a difference. And see, I was thinking about this the other day, which is why I mentioned it. It's a loose hypothesis at this point. But I think that there's the idea of bulletproof, and I think there's the product of bulletproof, and I think those can kind of conflict with each other and cause kind of stagnation in a lot of areas. I think that for a lot of people who are just in a certain type of lifestyle, you can definitely go into the bulletproof diet and you can take it and you can be perfectly fine as long as you're doing it right and you don't end up going down the path of eating too little, which I see a lot of already anyway. Um, but the idea of bulletproof is, I think, where the main value of the entire thing is. And with Dave being the figurehead of the entire thing, like his image is creating the idea, and the idea of bulletproof is to make yourself be the best that you can be at whatever it is that you are doing. I think that's the pinnacle of the entire thing, because like no one wants to say, okay, we can be the best at this, but we don't care about these people. It's all about everybody, no matter what, reaching the absolute peak of whatever it is that they do. I don't care if you're writing books. I don't care if you're playing golf or you're going to go to the CrossFit games. I don't care. You know, everyone's got different needs within which one of those, and I think everybody needs to foster those ideas and actually take advantage of the people who have the knowledge in those certain areas. And I think the part of the problem is if you start to, if someone says, okay, well, I'm doing this, well, we'll take whatever, golf, doesn't matter. I'm doing this, and this works really well for me. I'm one of the top ones in the world. And then one person will say, yeah, but that's not bulletproof.
Yeah.
You've already ended the discussion. You've already stifled progress. You've stopped all progress towards a movement of creating excellence in that one area because you've basically taken some of your experimentation off the table. You've worked yourself into a corner, and I don't think that we should be doing that. I think that, you know, people who are really good at golf should be telling the people who are not very good at golf how to play better golf. And they should be listening to that and taking some of those elements and saying, okay, what am I not doing now that I could be doing? And I'm going to follow that, and that'd be in the one category. Same with someone who's writing books. You know, I suck at writing books. You're really good at it. What do you do, right? You can't apply. I think we have to completely separate those two things. There has to be two marketed things happening, or something has to happen. Because as soon as we just latch onto this, you know, the whole, you know, the book and the supplements and the diet and the whole thing like this, and of course the food list is good for everybody. The food list is great, but you know, when it comes to the application, all that kind of stuff, you cannot apply that one template to anything. I don't care what it is. You can't apply one template of anything to everybody. It just doesn't work. So I think that's where we definitely need to go. I think we need to kind of relax a little bit, and I think we need to listen to the people that, you know, are maybe really good at what they're doing, you know, and actually not just poo-poo it, you know, just because it's doesn't follow the branding side of it, you know. And that's because the branding is trying to get people, right?
Right.
But once they're there, you know, you have to start developing more into the idea and kind of flowering into the best of what you can be, and it means different things to different people.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's an excellent philosophy, and I hope that people take that to heart and try to improve themselves in every domain. But
and I hate rapid fat loss program.
Okay.
And everyone knows that too. I just want to throw that out there because I got a lot of haters on there right now. People are mad at me because I'm the mean guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm not a fan either. But it resonates with people. You know, and some people are attracted to Bulletproof just because of that rapid fat loss program. But I mean, you know, analyze it. There's definitely a better way. So anyway,
it's eating disorder 101.
Yeah.
Basically, you're teaching people that food is not good, and that eating food is a problem. And I think that is a major problem in itself. I think that's a real danger signal. As soon as you start telling people, okay, well, you know, do this because, you know, food is a problem, people start not wanting to eat food, you know, and then once they want to stop doing this rapid fat loss program, you know, and they start rehydrating their systems and all that kind of stuff, they make the correlation. When I eat food, my weight goes up. When I don't eat food, my weight goes down. What do you think they're going to do? You know, I think it's not good. Anyway.
Well, Jason, I really appreciate you being on the show. I think everybody learned a lot from this dialogue, and we went over time a little bit, so I apologize for that. We're going to get some angry emails from Google, but I think it was worth it because I think we tackled some really good issues, especially there at the end. Jason, thank you so much for joining us, and definitely should come back on the show. We'll do a round 2.
No problem.
All right. Thanks, guys. Oh, one more thing before I sign off. We're giving away Unfair Advantage. We're doing a weekly drawing. If you're one of our subscribers, you're automatically entered in the running. So make sure you're in our subscription list. Thank you so much for joining us.